Hello everyone, this is MykeCheck'd 95 with another MykeCheck'd Productions MykeCheck'd movie review, and this is going to be away from any series that we are currently working on and whatnot. I am with my cohort,
Orphan Joker.
the orphan that still has his parents. For your margin, has passed out again. I know that his sleep schedule is very, very We watched my second viewing of the film called Fractured. His first viewing of Fractured, technically.
A year ago,
he saw
I
half
watched
of it.
half of it.
Yeah.
But, like, right up to the point where they don't answer anything.
So, I'm going to let you take the floor first, since it's kind of like a first-time viewer for you, because that way you can kind of, like, give that first viewer perspective, and then I can kind of give that second viewer perspective, because there's a lot of things that I saw in the second viewing that was like, this is really fucked up.
Yes, well, let's get into it. Oh, boy. Oh, I watched half of this movie before, up to the scene where he finds the scarf and gets confused just before they go back to the crime scene, so we didn't see any blood. But, boy, this movie, it does a really good job of saying, it's weird, because throughout the entire movie, they show it as if he is crazy, but then they also show it as if he's not crazy, but then they also add things in there, like the staff looking really weird, or missing some things, or him saying this when he didn't say anything, or he did say something, or like the camera skipping every 30 seconds. And so it shows that he could be crazy, but at the same time, there's no proof that he's crazy until they find the blood at the site, and it's just like, but there's still a dog, and there's a spooky lady at the gas station, and they were very leery about him going downstairs, and, you know, it's a bunch of stuff that, you know, had things went out. Obviously, it was written this specific way, but had different turn of events happened, they would have been able to find things out. Like, for me, if he'd have gone out to the car sooner. If you're watching this and you haven't seen it, go watch it, because that's the non-spoiler review. Spoiler alert. He's crazy. Right, Mike?
Caused off of, I want to say, a really, really bad and severe concussion, at least.
Severe concussion and traumatic event thing that he was doing a thing. It's quite possible that the dog was there. So they never really chopped that out, because it still showed, every time we redid the review, it showed the dog being there. It's quite possible that he threw the rock at the dog, and she fell, and then when he got up, he did like that, and wasn't even thinking, like, you know, just push her out of the way, because it did show him pushing her out of the way in the original, but it was just him pushing it, and I was like, that's kind of violent for him to be pushing her out of the way. And it's quite possible that he killed them, and he just didn't want to accept it, that he didn't do it on purpose, because he wasn't like...
He was completely out of it. He was gone mentally.
At no point, it's like, well, you were angry, and you threw the rock, but it's quite possible that he missed the rock, scared his daughter, you know, or the dog is, at first I was like, oh, the dog's there. Like, oh, the dog's representative of his anger, that's why he grabbed the gun, but the fact that the lady mentioned what she said meant was the dog was there. And so regardless of anything, the dog had to be there in some way, even if it's not in front of his daughter. The dog had to be there during their encounter at the grocery store in order for him to recognize the dog.
So I think the dog wasn't a hallucination. The dog was actually there.
So the question is, did he throw the rock and hit his daughter, or did he throw the rock at the dog and his daughter got spooked, and when he got up wasn't thinking, pushed his wife and she hit her head, and he just zoned out trying not to cope with it?
Here's what I think
happened. He
happened.
Didn't try to kill his daughter or anything.
Here's what I think happened, and with my second time viewing it. The dog was there. He threw the rock to try to scare the dog, which I feel like that's a very stupid idea to do, especially with your kid that far from the edge. She lost her footing. She fell backwards. He ran to go try and save her. Didn't work. She hit the ground, died. He hit the ground, got the massive concussion, was probably out for a period of time, and that's when the wife came out, was trying to find everyone and everything.
She'd clearly be freaking out.
She came down and everything, because it didn't really say how long he was out for, because if you hit your head, you're out for at least a good number of time. And that's
if not at least a couple of seconds.
So, like, when he got up, he was still suffering from that head injury he had and he wasn't even like acknowledging or even any like vision or sound. He was just completely gone. And so that's when he shoved her to the side, as we saw in the ending.
Mhm.
She fell over, spike in the head, and then he just turned around and
And that would explain why he was
he went
angry at the
went
lady, because he didn't kill his family. Well, he killed them, but he didn't like murder his family. Like, he didn't intentionally go out of his way to kill them, because they didn't at any point show that he threw a rock at his daughter, hit his daughter.
And the bad thing is, I think the combination of his head injury and his coping mechanism is what caused him to create that whole hallucination goose chase.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is not real, kind of a thing. What I'm
Yeah.
seeing is not real.
And so the head injury is
It's
what caused
because
all
he's
of it.
been in so many different things.
Mhm.
I don't know how his alcoholism is, but they say that if you're a really hard alcoholic and you stop, you'll actually see things, and you have to convince yourself that you go to therapy to stop seeing those things. Eventually, you will stop.
Yeah.
But also, traumatic thing, losing his daughter and stuff. How it should have ended, I don't think he's watched this movie and done it, but if he did, he should have done it and been like, they're on the bottom floor, and they're like, okay, take him to the bottom floor. It's hard to tell throughout the movie, once you know the ending, what about it was them acting weird and what about wasn't. Like, it only shows a couple of scenes, like him stealing the body or seeing the wrong bodies. It doesn't go through everything, like him seeing the daughter there. They didn't show the clip of, and they may have not had money or one of those scenes because the movie was long, but I would have put, him seeing the doctor at the time, checking his face, because they didn't add that scene. But those things, like him sitting by himself, and I'm guessing you're assuming those things, but I didn't like how they only showed some of the scenes. The him murdering the family scene, or him accidentally killing his family scene, and the him stealing the kid's body thing, and seeing some of the other, like, organs is this and that. But I would like it if they done it every scene, and I'm not too much, but just like an extra 10-15 seconds of him with the doctor for a second, or him over here for a second.
I think they only showed the last few minutes of this because that was just their way of saying, like, his brain is so far gone from now that he has completely forgotten about reality. He is stuck in this fantasy world, and there's pretty much no going back for him. That's why they're focusing on that part, because at that point he's gone. He's checked out of his mental hotel, and he is off in La La Land.
But they did a really good job of making it to where, as a person, like, you're just as crazy as him. You're like, I don't know. I've only seen what he's seen. They don't show you information. When he's drugged, you feel drugged, or the camera footage is drugged. When he's spooked, he's spooked. They have music. Everything's kind of leaned angles as it starts to. At the beginning when he's stressed, they play stressed music, and so as a watcher, you both understand, but you also get to feel and experience that terror, spooky, creepy. And at the very end, it's like, okay, if you took like as soon as he drives away, if you would have stopped the movie and been like, take a vote, did he do it or did I? It's just like, it'd be kind of spooky. But then as soon as they show that kid in the back seat, it's like, oh. Well, the crazy thing is that I'm having a problem. One of the things I don't like is, how it should have ended. I was gonna say is how it should have ended. The police should have just went downstairs and been like, nope, nothing downstairs. But they didn't. You watched it a second time. Now, from the second time, watching the second time, was there a little more clarity in those scenes, or did it seem like the entire thing was only from his perspective?
For me, I could honestly tell from like points here and there. Like, it wasn't like super obvious and everything.
Like genuineness from the doctor, or genuineness from the psychiatrist, or the way the cops were reacting, or stuff like that.
It looked normal, like as if like they were like talking to a guy who was like, "Yo, I brought my daughter and wife here, yada yada," and you're like,
"What daughter?
You came in here by yourself, man."
Yeah, so it's only select scenes.
Talking to a crazy person, yeah.
It's not, hey, we're trying to cover this up, but actually, like, because it gives a little bit of that vibe in both directions.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's like, well, they might be telling the truth, but at the same time, they could be lying, but at the same time, motive, why would they be lying? And I know they pushed the whole organ thing at the beginning, because definitely had the, I'm gonna steal your organs vibe, the him going out to the ATM or to get money or that stuff. That was a weird scene where they cared about the insurance, because the insurance didn't have his wife and do that stuff, and I think it was just to add to the crazy. And,
It was add to the more of his
and so
crazy story. In
when
his
you
head.
watch it the first time, it looks like they're trying to disorient him, to confuse him so they could take his daughter and him not know it, trying to like convince him that he doesn't think he sees what he sees. But then when you watch the second time, it's just like him being irrational.
Like there's scenes in the movie where like you can just see him acting his normal crazy, mentally broken down and completely gone self, and it turns to parts of to the other actors in the movie, and they've got this look on their face like in the lobby, all the people looking at him, they're like, is he talking to himself?
Yeah. I just thought of a thing. I was like, well, if they had the scarf from the dog, then why did the dog sniff out the truck? Because the truck, he didn't drive the truck to the site. They took the police car, which meant the car was still at the ambulance.
The van was still at
the van was still
hospital.
At the hospital. Thank you. That's what I was trying to say. So I stand with Josh. Not to make the review too long. It's still kind of long. I don't know too much about psychosis, but it seems like a logical thing. Head trauma, definitely extremely disoriented, like they said, and intense things. I mean, intense things all the time. Like, you ever fall off? People at home, you ever fall off something and you have like, it feels like everything slows really, like slows down really slow before you like fall to the ground. Even if you hit the ground and you don't feel anything. So it's not like you hit the ground and because you hit the ground you remember it fuzzy. It literally feels that way because your body shoots adrenaline and it tries to process stuff really, really fast. Life doesn't slow down. It happens still just as fast. You fall just as fast as if you jumped off something with confidence, as in falling accidentally off. Because your body tries to absorb enough information that it fills it in those spaces, but then you kind of speed up a little bit, but you also don't speed up and stuff doesn't slow down. It's just the trauma and the stress, like the adrenaline that the guy uses. And so having those moments, it does mess with you, and you forget some things. Falling asleep and waking up, you don't know what time it is, those kind of things. But I'm not so sure about psychosis in this aspect. I do know that there are people who, like serial killers who kill people, who 100% believe that they did it on purpose, the other person was attacking them, or a bunch of different things like that, because it's the only way their brain can cope with it. And so I feel like that's a psychosis thing.
The main point of the whole thing is just he had a head injury that wasn't ever disclosed or described what he had, because he
didn't say it, but they said it way too late, only through his consciousness, very confused whether it was actual thing or not, because you're like, but I saw his daughter in the hospital.
Because he refused to get a CAT scan. So
we know that now from a second viewing, but not from a first viewing. And so you're from your perspective of a second viewing.
It's like, I don't know, like, it's just trying to tap into the science of head injuries and everything is very difficult when you know, like, a little bit.
From the moment he closed his eyes to the moment he goes out and falls asleep, all made up.
Yeah, when he goes back.
And then after that, it's 100% real up until he closes his eyes to pull back the curtain things. From that moment on, completely sees different stuff, because he doesn't see organ boxes before that. He only sees them after that. He looks out, sees people with organs, sees the girl, and that's when he flips the second time, because he sees this stuff, he traumatizes, he sees blood, it reminds him of his daughter, snaps back into psychosis. And so I think everything from the moment he wakes up from his sleep to the moment he closes his eyes and the thing is 100% real.
I don't know if that's concussion side effects or what, because I also know that you're not supposed to, like, not get, I don't know, I hear sometimes, like, if you have a bad enough concussion, you don't want to, like, fall asleep or something like that, because it could lead to something worse. But that's just for me.
They say don't fall asleep. It was the same when he got his daughter in. If you have a possible concussion, don't fall asleep. And the reason don't fall asleep is because it might be, if you bumped your head, taking a nap won't hurt you. The problem is, if you get a concussion and your body's wanting to shut down, it is a brain damage thing. If you hit your head and you don't have a concussion and you feel tired, you can take a nap. The problem is when you get a concussion, you can't tell whether or not it's your brain processing and actually disappearing. So they say, don't fall asleep, don't fall asleep. That's just a myth. Like, suck the venom out of a snake wound when, you get stung.
I said, I don't know too much about it, honestly.
If somebody has a concussion and they are going to pass out, telling them not to fall asleep and smacking them will not do anything, and them falling asleep won't do anything.
I want to make this really quick and everything because I don't want to stretch this part of the review too long.
Yes.
So
and we can chop our banter in
ratings
the
and
middle
everything. This film kind of has the same. Is this reality? Is this fake?
Mm-hmm.
Is this like what's real and what's not real? Kind of the same way as A Cure for Wellness did, except in that film, what you thought was really fucked up and weird, yeah, like it had the same vibes because it's like you don't know what's real,
it was,
you don't know what's fake, all that fun stuff, yada yada yada.
That twist at the end was just like, and then it just like keep showing that, and then the grinding into the twist of, you know, he did kill his family. He put him in the back. Not only was he in that, but the guy that he shot, he actually shot. The cop he choked out, the security guard he choked out, he actually choked out. The kid who was alive in the table downstairs. The people he shot, you know, and blew up downstairs. You know, all of those people were innocent people.
Yeah, I highly recommend this film, and I would say my rating. And the only reason why I'm going to say 8.5 is because it's still good. It's just there's elements of the film that I'm not saying it's the movie's fault. It's just my lack of knowledge of the said things, like the whole, like knowing more about certain side effects like head injuries and whatnot. As looking at from an outside perspective, not understanding some things because that's my fault, and that's what the film was going for. It's still an 8.5. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend it for people to watch.
I watched the first half once before, and it was so much that when the guys were like, "Hey, we're gonna watch it," I was like, "Yes, please, I want to finish it." They did a very good job of confusing the snot out of me, and making, like I said, making things two sides. Where if you're on team, he's crazy, you have a lot of evidence, but you're also on team, he's not crazy, you have a lot of evidence, and they do it all the way to the end. And then it's like, oh, he did save his family, and you start. I mean, because both sides, you start throwing stuff out. Like if you're on team, he's not crazy. You're throwing out stuff like he was in there before, he has a bandage on his head, you know, that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, if you're on team, he is crazy, you know, the doctor's saying weird things, and he had the thing in his hand, and he saw the dog, and so they do a really good job of all that until the very, very end when they literally show the last bit. I liked it, and it was good, and it was spooky, so I want to give it like an 8.5, but I also want to give it an 8, just because, I don't know, I'd give it an 8.25, because,
Happy me.
yeah, it was good, it was bad, and when I mean by bad was, it hurt my head, but it was supposed to hurt your head, and therefore it's good. The cutscenes aren't fantastic, you know, it's really edgy, there are some low spots, some confusing language, and a couple scenes. It's very rough in some places, so definitely an 8.25. Recommend it.
I would say any final thoughts, but the camera is actually about to die, so I'm going to try and shut this down really quick. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like. If you enjoy any more of our new content, subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, spread the word about MykeCheck'd Productions. This film was very good. This is MykeCheck'd 95 with another MykeCheck'd Productions MykeCheck'd movie review with my cohort,
Orphan Joker.
Signing out. Make sure your brains do.